while my E39 is at the dealership getting the driver's side airbag replaced for the Takata recall, this is my loaner car. It is a BMW X2 28i S-Line. So it's got M wheels, an M steering wheel, and a few little other M accents on it. I'm not sure if it's an appearance package or if it actually has any performance benefit in the suspension department or anything like that. I'm gonna be honest, first impression, I really don't like how this car looks. It looks a lot like a Mercedes GLA or someone stepped on a BMW X3. It's just so squatty and long. I want to say that it looks like a jacked up station wagon, but it really doesn't. It just looks bad. The back of the car is the worst part by far. It's just so squished and squatty and gross and looks like something from Europe. I really don't like it. It doesn't look like a BMW they would sell in America. Looks like the original 1 Series. It just didn't work for me. So we're gonna hop in, drive it. I'll do a little review. We'll see how I like it. I do love the steering wheel. It's great. I like how small the airbag is. The paddles are really easy to get to. Turn it on. I think the gauges are a little bit small, and then I don't like that this is always screaming at me as soon as I get in the car. Like, stop. I just got in, leave me alone. So I think the gauges are a tiny bit too small, but for the most part, I really do like this interior. It's very nice. The seats are great. They're really comfortable. They've got this great bolstering over here. Really keeps you in place well. Not that this is a performance car, but it does work. I like this shifter a lot better than the little like just non-mechanical shifters they use in like the E60, where you just popped it and it went back into place and that's how you adjust it. I like that this is drive, neutral, reverse, park. I like that it's more of a traditional moving shifter. The reverse camera is really clear, but it's also really small, so it's kind of a trade-off there. I like how simple all this is. There's still buttons, but there aren't a lot of buttons like in a Porsche where there's just crazy amounts. The iDrive is okay. I mean, it's getting better, so I like this a lot better than the original iDrive. But for the most part, this interior is really nice. I can't see anything. Like, the windshield is really raked back. It's not a whole lot of height to it. You can't see anything out of the back. Like, look how small that rear window is, and then you have headrest in the way. So if you've got kids and you have to keep the headrest up, you're not going to be able to see anything. The side windows are small. Just everything. It's difficult to see out of this car. There's a lot of blind spots. So I don't like that. But let's go drive it around and see how it drives. We'll give a driving impression of the car. So because this is a 28i, that means it is a turbocharged 4-cylinder. I'm not getting any sort of engine noise in the cabin. So even though it's a 4-cylinder, not going to be as smooth as a straight 6. I'm not getting any vibrations or rumbles. Again, I love this steering wheel. This steering wheel is amazing. It feels great in your hands. It's a really small diameter, so it makes it feel sporty. It's got a good thickness to the wheel, so it's nice to hold on to. The paddles are really big and easy to get to. So if I had something like this in an M2 or something like that with a dual clutch and this same exact setup, I would be really happy with that. I like that the engine redlines at 7,000. That's a really good redline for a turbocharged engine. It can still be fun. So we'll put it in sport mode. Gives me some sport gauges, which show me the horsepower and torque that I'm actually using at that time. And they do adjust, and you can see as I accelerate how quickly the torque comes on compared to the horsepower. So it is kind of a fun gauge to look at. It gives you a good representation of how these modern turbocharged engines work compared to an older naturally aspirated engine. It's just instant torque, and then the horsepower comes on. I don't know how much power and torque this car makes. The gauge goes to 240 for power and 320 for torque, which sounds about right for what I would expect this engine to make. Got it in manual mode. I don't like Okay, so that was a pretty good power pull. It's not particularly quick, so I don't think it has 240 horsepower and 320 foot-pounds of torque. It might, I'll have to check. I'll put a little graphic on here if it does. It doesn't feel that quick, but it does have some excitement at the top of the rev range. So you do get something revving it all the way up to 7,000 RPM. You are rewarded for that. It's not like some of the other turbocharged engines where it's all grunt below 3,000 or 4,000 RPM, and as you get up to the top, you should short shift it because there's really no reason to be up that high. So it's still a spirited, fun engine. It makes a nice little whine as you rev it out, so that's kind of fun, but it is by no means quick. It's faster than that Toyota I drove last week, but it is by no means quick. The transmission, I'm assuming, is a ZF 8-speed. Yes, it is. So it's a ZF 8-speed transmission. So I'm really happy with the drivetrain. The transmission's great, and the engine is pretty fun so far. So I'm really happy with the drivetrain. I don't particularly like the brake pedal. I don't know if it's over boosted or what, but I don't get a lot of good feel through the brake pedal of I'm applying this much pressure on the brake pedal and I'm stopping this much. I feel like there's no resistance on my foot when I'm pressing on the brake pedal, but the car is slowing down. So there's not a good correlation there. It might just be I have to get used to it, and after a week of driving it, it would be normal. But first impressions, I don't really like the brake pedal. I also don't love the throttle pedal. It feels like a little bit of an on-off switch, and when it is on, as soon as I let off the throttle, if I want to like coast, the car instantly starts to bog down and slow down. So I don't know if that's a turbocharged engine thing or what, but it's not as smooth as my E39, where I can let off and barely breathe on the pedal, or I can even let off fully and the car will coast and comfortably maintain speed. If I'm going down a hill or traffic is slowing down in front of me, I have to kind of maintain a little bit of throttle like it's an electric vehicle, and I don't really like that. So here, we'll keep it in sport and let it shift on its own. Okay, I've got the car straight and matte. Alright, so it went up to 235 horsepower on the gauge and 200 and what looks like 50 foot-pounds of torque. That sounds a little bit more accurate to the speed that I am feeling. So I feel like this would be a really fun drivetrain in something like a 1 Series or a 2 Series. This car, I'm assuming, weighs a lot more than that. It probably, if I had to guess, weighs somewhere in the neighborhood of like 3,600 pounds, 3,700, almost as much as my E39. And it's got a lot less torque and a significant drop in horsepower, but it does have 3 more gears, so that should help it out. It still doesn't feel particularly quick, but it's an X2. It's not supposed to be. That's not what it's designed for. The car is pretty comfortable. I mean, going over bumps and things, it does absorb pretty well. I don't know if this is any sort of sportier suspension compared to the regular car, but it does pretty well. And this seat, I don't know if I'd want to do a long road trip in this seat, but this is a really nice sport seat. I mean, I am really held in, and I feel like the seat is actually holding me. So it is a really nice seat. It just feels like it might be a little stiff in the lumbar area, and it might start to make my back sore after a while. As I said before, I've got horrible visibility. I do not like the rear visibility. The side mirrors are a weird like parallelogram shape instead of just a regular rectangle, which I do not like at all. I don't know why that's a thing. They aren't really helping the case of the horrible visibility and all the blind spots. I'm not a very tall person. Can I adjust this seat? Okay, yeah, you can adjust the seat down. As I say, whoever had this before must have been really short. My head was almost touching the roof. It does have a big moon roof. Let's see if I can open this. Yeah. I don't like that the cover for it is not completely opaque. You can still see through it, so if it was a really hot day, if you live somewhere like Arizona or California, and it was extremely hot, that sunlight is going to get through the roof and heat up your car. I don't like when I do not have the ability to fully close off my sunroof. Why is that a thing? If I want the sun, I will open it and let the sun in, or open the shade and keep the glass closed. I don't want sun all the time. So we are on a pretty rough gravel road right now, and yeah, this is hardly off-roading, but most people will never take this car off-road anyway, and it's doing perfectly fine. It's definitely dealing with all these weird undulations better than the E39 did. I'm gonna run inside and pick something up. I'll be right back. So overall, I think it's a fun little car. I am definitely not the target market for this. I'm not a big fan of SUVs. I'm not a big fan of crossovers. That's just not where I want to put my money. However, I really like the drivetrain. If I was looking at something like a 1 Series or 2 Series, I would be perfectly fine with this engine option. Obviously, you can turn the boost up. The transmission, you don't need to do anything to. It's already a great transmission. So turn the boost up a little bit, and you really would have a fun 1 or 2 Series. I would obviously rather have something like the N55, but this engine's perfectly fine. My biggest complaint is I don't like how the car looks, and I don't like my visibility from the inside, which all of that could be fixed with a different car, taking the same steering wheel, the same transmission, the same engine, all of those things. One problem that can't really be fixed, I don't think, is I don't like the brake pedal and I don't like the gas pedal. So the gas pedal, as soon as I let off the gas pedal, it's almost like the brakes are applied slightly because the car starts to slow down really quickly, and that's unpleasant. The gas pedal does not have good feel, the brake pedal does not have good feel, and that might just be how modern cars are now. It's very... I can't anticipate what the car is going to do. My driving feels a little awkward. I am really happy with the steering feel. The steering feels pretty good. I don't know if it's electric steering or not, but it does feel pretty good. The gas gauge hasn't moved, and I have driven it pretty aggressively. It's only been about 15 minutes of driving, maybe 20, but gas gauge has not moved at all. So to really give a conclusion of how I feel about this car, I don't like it, but there's a lot of good things to pull from it that are, of course, in other BMW models that I might like. So I wouldn't recommend this car, but I would more than happily recommend the rest of the drivetrain and other bits of this car that I do like. So if you're someone who loves crossovers and you like how this looks, yeah, you know, go test drive one. I could send you to the dealership for a test drive. If this is not something that you even remotely want to consider, it's not going to change your mind. It's not like some fantastic thing that's going to blow your mind. So let's go pick up my baby. She is done. I'm going to pick up the E39 and not get killed by my airbag, so that'll be great. So hit that subscribe button, drop some comments down below, and I will see you guys next week.